All right, and welcome back to the Plamo Talk. Today is episode 13. We are going to be going over anime, politics within anime, and the multiverse. Imagine that. All right, so anime. This is going to be a pretty brief topic. You know, we all love anime. Those of you who are listening to this, we probably mostly all like anime, and we generally have our favorites, right? So my favorite being Dragon Ball Z, anything Dragon Ball, and Gundam. I've watched a couple of others in the past and recently, but I tend to stick with Dragon Ball and Gundam, not because they're safe, just because I like them. But Trigun, Blue Gender, of course everybody's watched Akira, or you'd hope everybody's watched Akira, Vampire Hunter D, so on and so forth. Watched quite a bit of him anime as I've grown over the years. And anime is what I would consider a form of freedom, right? It's a form of artistic freedom. It allows the creator or creators to express not only their political beliefs in some cases, but just express themselves and let their team express themselves as in a way that they know how, which is to create a, for the lack of a better term, a cartoon or an animation that expresses those beliefs, concerns, thoughts, you name it. And what we get are some incredible stories like Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, a lot of stuff from Studio Ghibli, and some of the animes I mentioned prior. We get these incredible stories, we get these incredible animations, we get this incredible art, that you would otherwise see, or that you wouldn't otherwise see, really. We could talk all day about the American animation, when it comes to like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Thundercats, or even going back some way, SWAT Cats, and some of our animation. But truth be told, most of our animation in the United States can't hold a candle to what we see in Japan, right? That's just my personal belief, and that might not be a highly heated topic, but the point is, these creators, whether they're here in the States or whether they're in Japan, they create based off how they feel about a topic and based off of, what they believe, this, that, and so forth. And then they create these fantastic worlds and fantastic characters that go through just this whirlwind of experiences, and some of which have some great storylines and great character development. And honestly, I could tell you right now, the way I feel about it, you cannot get that in most modern cinema, television, or even in some cases most modern animation that's, I would say, primarily based in the United States. So with that said, politics. I'm going to try to remain as neutral as possible on this as I can. There are some things that I feel heavily towards, and I will not dig too deep into that. But what I will say is the state that I live in, Texas. I live in Texas, for those of you who may not have figured it out by now. But I live in Texas, and there's currently a bill in the House, and I think it's going up to the Senate. I'm not keeping track of it. That's going to ban very specific anime in the state. Ownership, distribution, creation, you name it. And it's primarily around the this is even hard for me to say. This is primarily around the exploitation or the usage of characters that appear to be of younger stature in situations that are more adult oriented. And so they're the House is looking to ban the ownership, distribution, and creation of those particular styles or those particular animes with some of that in there. And, honestly, I've got my own feelings about it, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on this particular move, because I can't say other states won't do this, but what's to say other states pick this up and do it, right? Texas is one. We're huge, right? We're huge. But what's to say New Mexico doesn't pick it up? Colorado doesn't pick it up. New Hampshire doesn't pick it up. Montana, Michigan, you name it. What if other states eventually start to pick this up? What are your thoughts on that? Are you okay with that? Are you not okay with that? Like I said, I'm going to try to be as neutral as possible here. I've got my own feelings towards that particular thought process and exploitation of anybody that is under the age of, it's under the age. I'm not cool with. I'm vehemently against that. However, that's as far as it goes for me to get into the political thing here. But again, what are your thoughts on potentially banning maybe even some of your favorite anime, like Gundam 0079? If you've watched some episodes of that, there's clearly naked children in some of those episodes, or at least one or two of those episodes. And coming across that, I was even shocked, right? Because, in 1979, the world was different. The world was clearly different back in 1979. And, for the Japanese to put that in animation, I guess their laws were, I don't know, more lax back then. I have no idea. But, yeah, even in Gundam 1979, or 0079 from 1979, there was a couple of episodes where there were naked children. And I think the girl who took care of those children, I can't remember exactly if her age was under 18. I know she was no older than Amuro, so I think Amuro was a teenager in that show too. So even then, yeah, color me surprised, because when I first actually sat down to sit through and watch the whole series, about a year ago, I was a little taken back by that, and I didn't know how to feel about that. And then I think in Mobile Suit Gundam, MS-08, I think that was it. That there was a scene, very beginning of that episode, or that series. There was a scene. So it's very possible, right? It's very, very possible that there could be some of your favorite Gundam series no longer being shown on Hulu or Crunchyroll or wherever else you watch it in the state of Texas. And moving forward, if you live here in the state of Texas, I'd be very, very careful about consuming any of that media that may contain some of that stuff in it. We are very, very strict on that kind of stuff, and it's sad to see that. It is what it is. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but I'm kind of curious again. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think this could do to anime as a whole? Do you think that other states, other countries will pick this up eventually and start doing the same thing? Do you think this will change the way Japanese artists decide to create in the future for a wider audience? Because let's not lie to ourselves. We in the United States, we consume a lot of anime. We consume a lot of Japanese culture. I myself, being part Japanese, actually a good chunk of myself is Japanese, at least half. I consume a lot of Japanese media, culture, food, you name it. That's just who I am. I'm trying to explore my ethnic background, and I do it through those ways I can, because I can't just go to Japan right now. It's not in the cards for me at the moment. So anyway, your thoughts. What do you think? And then moving on. Gundam G-Quux and the multiverse of what the frick just happened. We saw, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it yet, we saw two Lalas. Isn't that crazy? We saw two. The Rosa Chiron submerged in the sea, and then another one in a hostel or brothel, whatever you want to call it, right? What do you think of this? What do you think of Gundam introducing, like, well, I mean, I'm sure it's introduced it before, right? But like really digging its heels into the multiverse. Isn't it crazy? Like, why? Why go this direction? Now that answers the question for me. Where's Amuro? Where's, what happened to Triasnabal? What happened to all these other characters, right? Where'd they go? Where are all the children? Where's Kai? Where's everybody? And this in its own way, kind of answers some of those questions, because it's a different universe. Deliberately so. And here we are on episode 9 of 12 episodes, where we see the Rosa Chiron and Lala sitting at the bottom of the ocean. The same one, at least they hinted to, the same one that you saw in 0079 get killed, right? Like, okay, so that might explain where Charles went in the Kira Kira, right? That explains probably where he went. So, color me surprised when I actually watched this. Now, I already heard some murmurs about it being a multiverse episode, but I want, as with everything, if you're inquisitive and you want to ask a lot of questions or find out why, you're going to want to watch it yourself or do the thing on your own to figure it out. So for me, of course, I watched the episode. Why wouldn't I? And yeah, so now we have an answer to why some of these characters that we've loved for years are not present in this show. So, what are your thoughts on Gundam G-Quux introducing a true multiverse? I can't believe I almost quoted Marvel in the Multiverse of Madness, and that's why you saw me heard me hesitate earlier on when I was saying all that. But it is bonkers to me, that everybody wants to start using the multiverse. So I hope that there's a season 2. Not because I think that a season 2 has to happen, but I think it's warranted, right? I think they're not going to be able to answer all the questions, all the burning questions and plot points and all this unless there's a season 2. And I think that's pretty much almost a guarantee with this series being only 12 episodes long. There's only so much you can do, right? There's only so much you can say and do in the show with 12 episodes. So anyway, I think there's going to be season 2. I think the last 3 episodes of the show of this season are going to lean really heavily into what the multiverse actually looks like. And I'm kind of curious your thoughts on where they could go from here. Like, do you think that they're going to try to find a way to exploit that and get into the other universe to find Char? Or do you think they're going to, who knows, right? It'd be crazy. We get it with Marvel. Now we're getting it with, we got it with Spider-Man, which is Marvel adjacent because of Sony. We get it with a bunch of TV shows lately. Why not G-Quux? Why not Gundam? Why not? So anyway, that is today's episode of the Plambo Talk. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a lot of responses to this, and I really would like to hear your thoughts on all three topics that we discussed today. Go ahead and if you could leave a like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. It helps the channel grow. It helps us get some audience, and the bigger we grow, the better, right? Because I want to be able to communicate with everybody who loves or doesn't love this or whatever. Anyway, I'm out of here. Y'all enjoy your weekend or what's left of it, and keep on building. I'll see you later.